Welcome to this week's episode of the Modern Mentor Podcast. I'm your host, Rachel Cooke, and today I'll be sharing some insider secrets on how to answer one of the most dreaded interview questions. Tell me about a time you failed. You polished your resume, you pounded the pavement, and you landed that coveted job interview. Congratulations! Now it's time to prepare and rehearse. You can never anticipate exactly what an interviewer will ask, but the window just before a job interview presents you with an opportunity to reflect on your career to date, your highs and your lows. An honest reflection will leave you with a handful of stories and examples in your back pocket that can lend themselves as answers to some commonly asked questions. Likely, hopefully, you'll get a few softball questions. The interviewer may want to know how you chose the college you attended or what you loved most about your last job. And also, chances are the interviewer will also hit you with a few whammies. And one of the whammiest of all is the infamous, "Tell me about a time you failed," or some variation on that theme. And oh joy, because don't we all love reliving and describing for others our lowest moments? No one loves this question. Do you toss out a humble brag? I care too much and I work too hard. Or do you throw yourself under the bus? I didn't plan or organize well at all. Well, turns out it's no and no. But how do you find the safe space in between these two poles? The key is understanding what the interviewer is actually asking. As a recovering HR person myself, this is a thing I know a bit about. So if you'd like to successfully show this question who's boss, keep on listening. Start by understanding what the interviewer is actually asking. If you're wondering whether the interviewer is a sadist who enjoys watching you relive a painful moment, likely the answer is no. There are good reasons why your answer to this question can be incredibly telling. So let's start there. When the interviewer asks this question, what are they really hoping to learn? Generally speaking, they're asking, do you have humility? Are you comfortable with the idea of failure? Are you reflective of your own failures? Have you taken accountability? Do you receive and take action on feedback? And have you learned something from a bad experience? Understanding that these are the unasked questions, your job now is to choose the right example and use it to tell a story in a way that delivers on all of the above. Let's talk about how you choose the right example. It's really about following a few simple guidelines. First, the story you tell should be about an actual failure. Don't hide behind some version of, I just cared too darn much, or I can't stop working. Someone who can't come up with a single true failure is either lying, not paying attention, or playing things way too safe. Next, choose an example that shows ownership. Your story shouldn't be a veiled attempt to blame somebody else. Others may have been involved, but you want your example to show that you have humility. Next, focus on a failed outcome, not a failed performance. Your example shouldn't show that you were sloppy or careless. It should show that you planned for an outcome, but you didn't stick the landing. And finally, you want your example to demonstrate that you can learn from mistakes. So choose an experience that prompted feedback, which you received, processed, and took action on. Let me give you a sample answer to tell me about a time you failed. Because with your example locked and loaded, it's important how you communicate this story. It has to be delivered in a way that hits all the right notes. There's no harm in beginning with a touch of levity. Kicking off with a brief comment like, yes, personal failures, everyone's favorite topic, is a great way to demonstrate that failure is something you're comfortable with experiencing and you're willing to learn from. It doesn't make you sweat or panic. You can still be easy breezy. From there, take a beat of reflection. You may be prepared with a story, but you don't want the interviewer thinking that you're working off a script. So give yourself a moment and use the pause to ready yourself. Now it's time to tell the facts of what happened. Humility, accountability, and failure of outcome versus performance all come into play here. Here's what an example might sound like. Early in my career, I was asked to lead a meeting with the department head to secure funding for a project. I was so nervous. I researched, I prepared slides, and I scripted talking points that I rehearsed so many times I could recite them in my sleep. We finally got to the meeting and I kicked off with confidence. But within a few minutes, it was evident that the department head didn't want my prepared script. She wanted to have a conversation with me, but I was so wedded to my lines, I couldn't answer her questions. Ultimately, we didn't get the funding. After the meeting, I was devastated. My boss gave me feedback about the importance of preparing a point of view, but also anticipating questions and being flexible, ready to listen and respond, even if my response is only that I've got to do some research and follow up. It was a great lesson, and the experience has really influenced the way I prepare for meetings today. I'm eternally grateful to my boss for the feedback. Okay, let's consider that a complete response to the interviewer's question. What did this approach serve to do for you? First, it was authentic. The failure was real. You didn't get the funding. Next, it showed accountability. You didn't blame your boss for not preparing you. You took ownership of the outcome. Next, it was a failed outcome, as in you didn't get the funding, but it wasn't due to your own carelessness. And finally, it shows your gratitude for feedback, that you can receive it, process it, and adjust the way you work as a result. All things that hiring leaders are looking for when they're interviewing new candidates. I hope the approach I've outlined has taken some of the fear out of the most dreaded interview question out there. Just follow this template and you're likely to find yourself both pain-free and possibly in possession of a new job. I'm Rachel Cooke, your Modern Mentor host. I hope you're feeling inspired to land that job interview. Have a question you want to ask me? Leave a voicemail on the Modern Mentor hotline at 201-632-5656. You might end up being featured on the show. Check out all the links in my bio or visit my website at leadabovenoise.com to be in touch. Thanks so much for listening and have a successful week.